Good evening, bonsoir. Welcome to the regular public meeting on December 2nd. Bienvenue à la séance ordinaire publique le 2 décembre. Please rise for the national anthem. Also do territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge the city of Bathurst as the ancestral homeland of the Mi'kmaq. Today, these lands are homes to a diverse population of indigenous and other people. We also acknowledge with respect the diverse history and cultures of the Mi'kmaq in this region. Nous reconnaissons avec respect l'emplacement de la ville de Bathurst en tant que terre ancestrale du peuple Mi'kmaq. Aujourd'hui, ces terres sont hôtes d'une population diverse, comprenant personnes natives du territoire et autres patries. Nous reconnaissons aussi avec respect l'histoire et les diverses cultures du peuple Mi'kmaq de la région. On va aller à l'approbation de l'ordre du jour, adoption of the agenda. Ms. Parker.
That the agenda be approved as presented.
All right, I'll need someone to move. Councillor Branch, seconded by Deputy Mayor Willett. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Ms. Parker, do we have any declaration of conflict of interest?
No conflict of interest were declared.
Parfait. On va aller à l'approbation du procès verbal 4.1, séance ordinaire publique tenue le 18 novembre 2024. Madame Parker.
Que le procès verbal de la séance ordinaire publique datée du 18 novembre 2024 soit approuvé comme distribué.
Parfait. J'aurais besoin de quelqu'un pour appuyer. Councillor Knowles, secondé par conseiller Leblanc. Prêt pour la question? Tous en faveur signifiant en disant oui. Oui. Contre non. Motion adoptée. 4.2 special public meeting held on November 12, 2024, November 19, 2024, and November 25, 2024. Ms. Parker.
That the minutes of the special public meetings dated November 12, 2024, November 19, 2024, and November 25, 2024 be approved as circulated.
All right, I'll need someone to move. Councillor Scarry, seconded by Councillor Hundas. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We'll go to consent of agenda. We're fine. Public administrative presentations, we do not have any. So we fall under finance. 7.1, 2025 budget. So we'll go at the 7.1.1 capital budget, the general capital budget fund. Ms. Parker.
Whereas Council has considered and reviewed a 5-year municipal capital plan, now therefore be it resolved that the 2025 capital budget be approved as follows. Roussel O'Neill renovations Phase 1, engineering structures $500,000. Storage array City Hall $75,000 for equipment. Police vehicle unmarked $65,000 equipment. Police vehicle marked with equipment $95,000 equipment. Wildland fire truck $275,000 for equipment. Tandem plow truck $365,000 for equipment. Tractor $360,000 for equipment. Half-ton truck for parks operations times 2 $130,000 for equipment. Streets rough waters Route 11 to city limits engineering structures $280,000. Engineering structures Streets, Daniel Drive, Vania to Ulrich, and section of Riverbank Street, $175,000. Streets, Little River, $60,000. Streets, Ryan Road, $50,000. Uwald Beach, building upgrades, $75,000. Waterfront Boardwalk, $35,000. St. Anne Crosswalk, trails, $30,000. Heat and energy recovery ventilators, HRV replacement, $85,000. Streets, 134 Bridge Street, $440,000, all under engineering structures, for a total of $1,730,000 under engineering structures, $1,365,000 under equipment, $1,365,000 under equipment, for a total of $3,095,000. Funding provided from the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board for $665,000.
All right, so I'll need someone to move. Councillor Branch, seconded by Councillor Knowles. Do we have any questions? Councillor Burnett?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just want to congratulate the team on putting together the equipment necessary to serve the public to the best that they can. Last summer, when they did a number of streets within the city with the equipment that they did gather over the last few years, thought about it the other night when I went around the basin coming home. Excellent job, and hopefully that continues next summer. And some of this equipment that we're getting tonight will help serve the public a lot better. So,
absolutely. I think that it's been a great investment from the department to want to move forward. I mean, if you look at Couture Street, there were so many streets that they did last summer themselves with recycle paved. So we're very fortunate. All right, so go to the question. All those in favor can signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 7.112, Water and Sewer Capital Fund. Ms. Parker.
Whereas Council has considered and reviewed a 5-year capital plan, now therefore be it resolved that the 2025 Utility Capital Fund budget be approved as follows. Underwater, Nipisiguit heat trace replacement, $60,000 in equipment. East booster chlorinator replacement, $50,000 in equipment. Chlorine analyzers, 2 inline, $25,000 in equipment. Butterfly valves, $30,000 in equipment. Simon's PLC replacement, $40,000 in equipment. Under sewer, arc flash upgrades under engineering structures for $120,000. Under water and sewer, tandem dump truck, $425,000 under equipment. Route 134 Bridge Street, $985,000 under engineering structures, for a total of $1,105,000 under engineering structures. $630,000 under equipment, for a total of $1,735,000. Funding from Municipal Capital Borrowing Board for $1,735,000.
All right, I'll need someone to move. Councillor Hondas, seconded by Councillor Legacy. Ready for the question, or do we have any questions? No? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Most of these we've all discussed already, so. Let's go to Municipal Capital Borrowing Board. Ms. Parker.
That the municipality of the City of Bathurst submits to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board an application for authorization to borrow money or to guarantee the repayment of money borrowed, or to enter in a lease purchase, or purchases agreement in an amount not to exceed $2,400,000 for the following. For the General Capital Fund, under engineering, Uwald Beach building upgrades, recreational services function for $75,000 for a term of 10 years. Waterfront Boardwalk, recreational services, $35,000 for a term of 10 years. St. Anne Crosswalk, transportation services in the amount of $30,000 for a term of 10 years. Heat and energy recovery ventilators, HRV, transportation services, $85,000 for a term of 10 years. Route 134 Bridge Street, transportation services in the amount of $440,000 for a term of 10 years. Under Water and Sewer Capital Fund, machines and equipment, Nipisiguit heat trace replacement, environmental health services for an amount of $60,000 for a term of 10 years. East booster chlorinator replacement, environmental health services, $50,000 for a term of 10 years. Chlorine analyzers, 2 inline, environmental health services for $25,000 for a term of 10 years. Butterfly valves, environmental health services for an amount of $30,000 for a term of 10 years. Simon's PLC replacement, environmental health services in the amount of $40,000 for a term of 10 years. Under engineering, arc flash upgrades, environmental health services, $120,000 for a term of 10 years. Route 134, Bridge Street, environmental health services, $985,000 for a term of 3 to interim. Under vehicles, tandem dump truck, environmental health services, $425,000 for a term of 10 years. This application is made pursuant to Section 1.1 or subsection 4.1 or Section 1.1 and subsection 4.1 of the Municipal Capital Borrowing Act and a resolution of Council of the City of Bathurst on December 2nd, 2024.
All right, I'll need someone to move. Councillor Branch, seconded by Deputy Mayor Willett. Before we go to questions, Stephen Burnett, Councillor Burnett, sorry.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The monies for the splash park, will that be spent early in the year so that the kids can have that splash park when the nice weather hits? Because this year that park was used by so many children, but that splash park needed to be upgraded. Is that going to happen?
All right. Mr. Laplan?
Through to Mr. Abernathy.
Okay. I'll get you the mic, Mr. Abernathy.
We haven't received
All right, you've got the mic.
We haven't got the funding for that.
Oh, Ryan? Okay. 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 All right, okay. Well, Mr. Wilbur, you have the mic now. Okay. There you go.
Thank you, Worship. This project is contingent on us receiving the necessary funding through the RDC. So as soon as the budget is passed, we will begin to make those applications for funding, and then certainly once the funding has been secured, we'll look to start lining up that work as soon as we're able to in the spring.
All right. Okay. So we'll go to the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. There are so many resolutions here that we're reading. Just got to make sure I'm getting to the right one.
7.1.
Okay, point 2, the application. That's a big one today. All right, Ms. Barker, application.
That the municipality of Bathurst submits to the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board an application for authorization to borrow money or to guarantee the repayment of money borrowed or to enter into a lease purchase or purchase agreement in the amount not to exceed $2,400,000 for the following. Under General Capital Fund, Recreational Services, a total of $110,000, Transportation Services, $555,000 for a total General Capital Fund of $665,000. Under Water and Sewer Capital Fund, Environmental Health Services, $1,735,000 for a grand total of $2,400,000. Added interest rate to be determined by the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation at the time of issue of debentures and not exceeding the chartered bank's prime lending rate of an interim bank loan for a period not exceeding 10 years by way of loan, issue of debentures, or to guarantee repayment of the loan, issue of debentures, or certificate of indebtedness made for a capital expense as set forth in subsection 1 of section 4 of the Municipal Capital and Borrowing Act as authorized by a vote of council of said municipality under date of December 2nd, 2024.
I'll need someone to move. Councillor Scarry, seconded by Councillor Handas. Do we have any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So we go operation budget, general operating fund 7.1.2.1. Ms. Barker.
That pursuant to subsection 99(2) of the Local Governance Act, the total budget for the general operating fund for 2025 consists of total revenues of $38,714,335 and total expenditures of $38,714,335, and that it be approved as follows. Under revenues, property tax warrant, $28,100,120. Community funding and equalization grant, $3,276,368. Local taxes, $250,000. Services provided to other governments, $2,491,810. Sales of services, $949,478. Other revenue from owned sources, $708,860. Other government transfers, $800,500. Other transfers, $2,137,199 for total revenues of $38,714,335. Under expenditures, general government services, $6,809,408. Protective services, $12,716,956. Transportation services, $6,739,119. Environmental health services, $639,315. Environmental development services, $2,330,223. Recreational and cultural services, $4,541,172. Fiscal services, $4,923,142, and other services, $15,000, for total expenses of $38,714,335.
All right, so I'll need someone to move. Councillor Legacy, seconded by Councillor Branch. Do you have any questions? Okay. Councillor Branch.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe this is a portion of the budget that includes the funds for public transit through the RSC. I was just curious, if something happens that, like we had touched on during budgeting, that we're not sure if we'll proceed or not, or how we proceed. So I'm just curious, if something would happen that we decide to do it on our own, we didn't go through the RSC, could we use these funds for that? So we could just simply reallocate these funds?
Monsieur Laplante.
Through to Ms. Gauvin.
All right, Madame Gauvin. Je te donne le micro.
Merci. Yes, absolutely. So that amount that is in the budget is the amount that we have to input because that's a circulated amount, but the vote for regional transportation is still to come at the Regional Services Commission. If it doesn't vote yes at that stage, then that budget would still be set for that, and then council could certainly choose to do whatever they want with that amount that's already set aside.
Oh, hold on, your mic is, hold on, you want to hit your button again? Okay, there you go, Councillor Branch.
Thank you. I guess my question is more along the lines of not if the Service Commission doesn't want to move forward, but if Bathurst would want to move forward in another way other than through the Service Commission, would we be able to use those funds?
Yes, as long as it's not a yes already at the Service Commission and we're not double paying, because we're not going to pay the Service Commission if it's a vote no, but if it's a vote for yes by Bathurst, then we'd have an invoice that we'd have to pay. So if we vote no at the Service Commission, then we won't get an invoice, and then that money can be reallocated.
Okay. And when is the vote at the Service Commission?
This Wednesday.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Anderson?
Thank you, Your Worship. My question is along the same lines with the regional, with transportation. Our city council was supposed to have an overview of the transportation system and the budget and the breakdowns, because this city council has never seen anything besides the number you provided to us last week of $82,373. Personally, now you're saying that the vote is this Wednesday, but this council has yet to see a presentation on the outline of that plan. So, like, I'm not comfortable voting blind on something that we have no information on. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But for this budget right here, we need.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I just want to make the
Yep.
point known.
Absolutely, yep.
That as a city councilor, yes, I know there's 2 members of this city council that sits at the regional service.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, as a city councilor in this room, I am not comfortable giving saying to the members that sit at the table there, yes, go ahead and use your discretion, when we have zero idea what's entailed within that project.
Well, we have an in-camera after. We may be able to discuss it quickly before Wednesday.
Well, somebody's going to have to discuss something. And I was hoping that somebody from the Regional Service Commission, because that was something that was discussed a couple weeks ago, that we would get a presentation by the Regional Service Commission. And because another party decided not to participate, we were left in the lurch and we weren't given a presentation.
Yes.
It's kind of not fair.
No, I know. Madame Gauvin, if we move forward, because our plans were to discuss public transportation on December 16th here, to say if we were going to move forward with it. So can we, I know they have to approve their budget, but their budget is like this one. It entails everything together. So if we approve the whole budget, right? Which includes the portion of the $87,000 that it would cost for public transportation. But can we, as a councillor, turn around and say, no, we're not moving forward with it after the fact?
Regardless of the vote that is being made on this budget and the Regional Service Commission, the vote for transportation is completely independent to go forward or not.
Exactly.
It
We
could
can
be
do
done
that
in
on
June.
December 16th, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. We can still refuse the public transportation. And our goal was to have it brought up on December 16th to discuss and invite them to come and present. Oh, okay. You're off again. Okay.
But you just said that you're voting on the budget this Wednesday with the Regional Service Commission.
The overall budget, but
That's part of it.
I know, but they also know that we need to come and have a vote for public transportation. It's like right now we're voting for the budget, but we haven't, it's there, but doesn't necessarily mean we might move forward with that portion.
Right, because we're kind of like a third party to the regional service budget in a way. But if the Regional Service Committee, the board members, vote on Wednesday night to accept the budget that's presented to them, the public transportation is included in that budget. So does that mean that we're dead in the water and that it's being passed?
They're just putting the money aside. Should the vote for transportation when the time comes is a yes. Public transportation could be in June. If it was, it just happens that it's at the same time, but it's two very different things. So they're going to vote for their budget if they want to go forward on the overall. They're putting the money aside for it, but the decision to go ahead for the public transportation,
It's going to be a
yes or
later
not,
date.
is completely
Okay, that's
different
what I
from
wanted
their
to
budget
clarify.
exercise.
Our intention is to, of course, once they make the changes from the last meeting, that's why we had to have another meeting. So, but we will, they know, we will make it very clear because they have also broken it down by areas like we're doing right now. They
Yeah.
are doing the same thing.
Okay.
And for that one, it's pending on the decision on December 16th.
Okay,
We were
perfect.
bringing it on December 16th with presentation.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right. Okay, so, Councillor Burnett.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. That was my comment, too. I'm still not clear on that, and I'm not comfortable with that being in the budget tonight. I think maybe that could be a topic for next year's budget, trying to get the service in place. But I'm not committed to, or I can't commit to spending $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 of taxpayers' dollars on a bus service, starting off with this evening. If this money does not get spent toward bus service, can it be used for some of our other projects? Say, for example, the Heritage Museum, which needs $30,000, $40,000 an update, is so old. Can we use some of this funding if we don't use it on that in some of our projects that are getting behind?
Well, there's, I think it's $87,000. It's not $600,000 and $700,000. There's only $87,000 in that budget
Well,
for
that's
this.
Yeah, that's the first shot at it, and I
Yes.
hear various stories. When you're talking a dozen employees, it's going to be a lot more than $62,000.
Yeah, but I mean, for
Yeah.
this budget right here, so the 87, as we mentioned a while ago, once we do go back to council and we bring it in, and if we don't spend it, then council can bring it back and decide where you want to spend the money.
Thank you.
Decision belongs to council.
Good.
Okay. Councillor Branch?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess one thing I want to point out too, like at the working group session when transit was brought up, there's a lot of stuff in there besides just the buses. Like there's a dial-a-ride, and there's also a lot in administrative salaries that may still, anyway, I just want to point that out, that could still be required for us to pay, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we're going to ask them to come and present to us on 16th. That was the
Okay.
plan.
Thank you.
All right, okay. So, go to the question. Everyone in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. One nay. Motion carried. 1, 2, 1. Okay, we fall under Utility Operation Fund. Ms. Parker.
that pursuant to subsection 117.4 of the Local Governance Act, the total budget for water and wastewater utility for 2025 would consist of total revenues of $8,148,917 and total expenditures of $8,148,917, and that it would be approved as follows. Under revenues, sale of services, $7,373,370. Other revenue from own sources, $748,583. Other government transfers, 0. Other transfers, $26,964. For total revenues of $8,148,917. Expenditures, environmental health services, $5,556,166. Fiscal services, $2,592,751. Total expenses, $8,148,917.
All right, I'll need someone to move and second. Moved by Councillor Honda, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We're going to fall at 7.1.2.3, warrant assessment, modification of Schedule A of Bylaw 2024-01, a bylaw respecting water and sewer services and charges in the city of Bathurst. Oh, we have, okay, just a warrant first one, yes, okay. I jumped one over the other one. Sorry. Warrant of assessment.
Whereas Council approved the sum of $38,714,335 as the total general operating budget of the municipality, and whereas the sum of $7,337,847 represents non-tax revenue, and whereas the sum of $3,276,369 represents the sum of the community funding and equalization grant, and whereas the sum of $28,100,120 represents the warrant of the municipality, and whereas the tax rates for Bathurst be listed as follows. Taxing Authority number 962.01, residential assessment of $86,454,600, non-residential assessment $250,700, heavy industrial assessment 0, tax base $86,880,790 for a warrant of $787,488, which gives a residential rate 0.9064, non-residential rate 1.5409, heavy industrial rate 1.5409. Taxing Authorities number 962.02, $130,957,400. Non-residential assessment, $11,720,400. Heavy industrial assessment, 0. Tax base, $150,882,080 for a warrant of $1,327,762. Residential rate, 0.8800. Non-residential rate, 1.4960. Heavy industrial rate, 1.4960. Taxing Authorities number 962.03. Residential assessment. Oh, geez. I'm not good at numbers.
You're doing a great job. It's a lot of numbers this year.
$1,104,110,200. Non-residential assessment, $221,534,800. Heavy industrial assessment, 0. Tax base, $1,480,619,360 for a warrant of $25,984,870. Residential rate, 1.7550. Non-residential rate, 2.9835. Heavy industrial rate, 2.9835. For a total of residential assessment of $1,321,422,200. Non-residential assessment total of $233,505,900. Heavy industrial assessment, none. Tax base of $1,718,382,230 for a warrant of $28,100,120. Now therefore be it resolved that council orders and directs the levying by the Minister of Environmental and local governments of said amount on real property liability to taxation under the Assessment Act within the City of Bathurst.
Thank you. I'll need a mover, Councillor Knowles, seconded by Councillor Legacy. Those are a lot of numbers. We have any questions? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carried. Doing a good job, Ms. Parker. Great job. Okay, now it's 7.1.3, modification of Schedule A of Bylaw 2024-01, a bylaw respecting water and sewer services and charges in the City of Bathurst. Ms.
This
Parker.
one has no numbers, so we're good.
We're good.
Whereas Bylaw 2024 bylaw respecting water and sewer services and charges in the City of Bathurst includes Schedule A, which outlines water and sewer services rates. And whereas it is necessary to update Schedule A to reflect the revised rates for 2025, be it resolved that Schedule A of Bylaw 2024-01 be amended to revise the Schedule of Water Charges, Section 1 and 2, and the Schedule of Sanitary Sewerage Charges, Section 1, to reflect an increase of 2%, and 2, the updated Schedule A shall come into effect on January 1st, 2025.
All right, I'll need someone to move and someone second. Moved by Councillor Branch, seconded by Deputy Mayor Willett. Before we go to the question, Madame Gauvin, did you want to add? Je te donne le micro.
Simply that this was in a required increase to balance the budget. We'll present the overall budget in a little bit. But for the residential user, that has one unit for water and sewer, full services, the fees would go from $8.25 per unit per year to $841.50 for the full year as well. So that's an increase of $16.50 for the full year, or $1.38 per month.
$1.38 per month, right? Okay. All right. So, any questions? Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose, nay. Motion carried. Okay. 1.13. Okay. Transfer from general operating fund to general operating reserve. Ms. Parker.
Be it resolved that council authorizes a transfer of $40,000 from the general operating fund to the general operating reserve fund.
All right, I'll need someone to move. Councillor Branch, seconded by Councillor Scarry. Before we go to the question, Madame Gauvin, I left your mic on just in case.
Might as well. So last week, I believe it was, we discussed during the budget that the transportation that we paid to the Regional Service Commission for the year 2024, which is close to $40,000, since we already have the money put aside to help pay the fees for 2025 if it goes forward, because remember, it still needs to be voted if we want to go forward or not, would be taken out from the reserve by taking the money that we're putting in tonight, set aside already because it's kind of already prepaid. So really it's taking the money that we paid in 2024 as a step up to help 2025 if we do need it. But if we don't need it, it will be still there in the reserve. And if council wants to take it out for another reason, that will be their decision if it doesn't go forward.
All right. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Transfer from Utility Operation Fund to Utility Capital Reserve Fund, Sewage Lift Station 1 and 8. Ms. Parker.
Whereas the City of Bathurst received funding under the Canada-New Brunswick Building Canada Fund for the construction of 2 sewage lift stations, and whereas under the agreement a replacement reserve fund shall be maintained for future replacement of various items, which amount has been determined to be $13,500 annually. Now therefore be it resolved that an amount of $13,500 be transferred from the Utility Operating Fund to the Utility Capital Reserve Fund.
All right, I'll need someone to move. Councillor Legacy, seconded by Councillor Knowles. Before we go to the vote, Monsieur Laplante.
Through to Ms. Gauvin.
Ms. Gauvin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we will have 4 of these types of resolution tonight. They're all the same type of resolution for the same type of reason. They're all previous agreement that the city has for new projects, where every year we have to put money aside to keep those specific assets in the utility fund. We can't use it for just doing anything in utility. They are very specific to what we can do with it. So with the first one that was for the first resolution was for the sewage lift station 1 and 8. So So we're adding 13,500. So the total of that capital reserve fund that can only be used for those two sewage lift station will be $177,000. For the expansion of the water treatment plant, which is the second resolution that you will see, we'll be adding 17,000. The new total will be around 69,000. Yahal Queen Elizabeth Drive will add 10,000 that you will listen at in the third one. The total will now be 141,000. And for the projects of Bayshore and Karen Drive, we will be adding, as per every year, 6,000. So that new total will be 161. So every year we had a total of 46,500 between those four utility capital funds, and those monies that are set aside can only be used for those specific things. We can't just do any upgrades for anything we want in the utility, but we had 2 pumps recently that needed to be changed for Yahal Drive. That's where we took the money to do that, so that's the reason for those funds.
All right, we'll go to the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 7.4, transfer from utility operation fund to the utility capital reserve fund, expansion of the water treatment plant. Ms. Parker.
Whereas the City of Bathurst received funding under the Canada-New Brunswick Building Canada Fund for a major upgrade and expansion of the water treatment plant, and whereas, under the agreement, a replacement reserve fund shall be maintained for future replacement of various items, which amount has been determined to be $17,000 annually. Now therefore be it resolved that an amount of $17,000 be transferred from the utility operating fund to the utility capital reserve fund.
All right, I'll need a mover. Councillor Hondas, second by Councillor LeBlanc. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 7.5, transfer from utility operating funds to the utility capital reserve fund, U-Haul and Queen Elizabeth Drive. Ms. Parker.
Whereas the City of Bathurst received funding under the Municipal Rural Infrastructure Fund for the connection of residences to the city's water distribution system and the wastewater treatment system for U-Haul and Queen Elizabeth Drives, and whereas, under the agreement, a replacement reserve fund shall be maintained for future replacement of various short-life items, which amount has been determined to be $10,000 annually.
All right.
Now,
Sorry.
Now therefore be resolved that an amount of $10,000 be transferred from the utility operating fund to the utility capital reserve fund.
I'm cutting you off before you're even done. All right, so I'll need someone to move. Councillor Scary, seconded by Councillor Legacy. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 7.6, transfer from utility operating fund to the utility capital reserve fund, Bayshore and Karen Drive. Ms. Parker.
Whereas the City of Bathurst received funding under the Municipal Rural Infrastructure Fund for the connection of residences to the city's water distribution system and the wastewater treatment system for Bayshore and Karen Drives, and whereas, under the agreement, a replacement reserve fund shall be maintained for future replacement of various short-life items, which amount has been determined to be $6,000 annually. Now therefore be it resolved that an amount of $6,000 be transferred from the utility operating fund to utility capital reserve fund.
All right, now I'll need someone to move. Councillor Knowles, seconded by Deputy Mayor Willett. I'm ready for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, municipal bylaws 8.1, proposed zoning bylaw amendment to the revision of zoning provision relating to residential development and the concept of gentle density. Second reading of bylaw 2024-11Z. Ms. Parker.
That bylaw 2024-11Z, entitled A Bylaw to Amend Bylaw 2008-01, entitled The City of Bathurst Zoning Bylaw, be read for the second time by title.
All right, I'll need someone to move. Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Scary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Draft resolution, items from administration. Do we have anything to report?
We have item 10.1.1, 2025 budget summary by Sonia Gauvin, City Treasurer.
All right, Madame Gauvin, I'm going to give you the mic. You're going to stay there, or you're coming to the podium? Podium, okay. Vous avez le micro.
Merci. Good evening, bonsoir. Donc, ce soir, on a approuvé toutes les résolutions. Merci, Madame Parker. Je sais qu'elles sont longues, complexes. Pour tous les budgets, c'est assez laborieux. Les résolutions sont nécessaires, mais ils ont toutes passé. Pour ceux qui sont intéressés, toutes les sessions de travail sont sur le site de la ville, la page web de la ville. Donc, n'importe qui veut voir les sessions de travail pour voir plus en détail ce qui a été discuté durant les discussions, durant les rencontres. Ils peuvent quand même aller voir, mais ce soir, on va faire un sommaire de haut niveau pour être capable de voir qu'est-ce qui a été fait. So I will go over this year's key objectives. Then we will look at the key highlights. We will talk about the property tax rates. We will then go over the different sections of the general operating budget as an overview, then the water and sewer operating budget. We'll look at the capital budget overview, and then this will bring us to the general outlook of where we ended up as a total budget for the city for the year 2025, as well as the objectives and work that we plan to do. So first of all, the first key objective that we always have, that one is legislated. We need to have a balanced budget. We cannot have a deficit budget. So that one is a must as a local governance act. Every municipality has to come to that. But as well as a city, we always put as a target to maximize efficiencies, optimize opportunities, and as well to have a sustainable budget for the years to come as well. And then as a year, we continue the capital reinvestment strategy that we started a few years back. And we also had the mandate from council to decrease the tax rate for Ward 1. So these were the overall objectives that we looked at. So when we look at the general operating budget, when we passed a resolution, for the general operating fund, we had a total of $38,071,000. For the water sewer operating budget, we had $8,150,000. The general capital fund, we had $3.1 million, and for the utility capital fund, we had $1.74 million. So as you can see altogether, we have the biggest budget that we've ever had at $51,693,252 altogether. So if we look at the details a little bit of the general operating fund, first of all, the property assessment for the year 2025 for the city of Bathurst increased by 7.9. And as you will see in the specific rates for Ward 1, we are decreasing the tax rate by 2 cents. When I say Ward 1, I mean the old city of Bathurst limits. We will also, through efforts in economic growth by the city plans significant increase in building permits and incentives for housing development. The city experienced a substantial increase in building permit activity in 2024 and expects the trend to continue in 2025 as it distributes more grant through the federal government Housing Accelerating Fund. And with 318 projected in building permits revenue, the city will benefit further from both extra housing in citizens and a higher tax base for the municipality. The city will also enhance healthy community incentives. We will continue to fully invest the revenue from the tourism accommodation levy towards new investment in tourism for a total of $250,000. And the aquatic center has additional money put aside from an allocated amount of $470,000 in 2024 to $630,000 in 2025. On the regional recreational infrastructure side, we will contribute additional money for our share of the Spaplex, but we will also be collecting $240,000 more for the ones located in Bathurst, so for the pool and for the Casey Irving Center through the Regional Service Commission. Finally, on a healthy community side, we have $80,000 set aside for a corporate branding exercise that will be fully inclusive and representative of its new boundaries and demographics, with money set aside for welcome to Bathurst signs as well in the tourism budget for $55,000. The last highlight is really through the capital investment. The goal in the capital reinvestment strategy has always been to take the savings from the debt payments and reinvest it in additional capital purchases made cash with more purchasing power. This cash budget has been increased every year since 2021. So for 2025, major roadway investments are planned on top of significant capital investments. We will also be making additional cash using the 2023 surplus of 1.5 million. I'll detail a little bit more when we get to the capital side of it. So the direct tax rate, if we look at Bathurst, so it is subunit 962-03. The old tax rate was 1.7750. The decrease by 2 cents makes the new tax rate 1.7550 cents. For Ward 2, we have 2 subunits. So the one that is identified as 962-01 for North Tetegush, as part of their 3rd year of this 6-year transition period for their contribution of shared cost. This means that for them, they will have an increase of 4.12 cents for the new tax rate of 0.9064. For South Tetegush, St. Anne, Big River, Route 134 beyond Miramichi Avenue, they will increase by 0.038 cents or 3 cents 80. Ooh, thank God it's not me reading the resolutions tonight. For a new tax rate of 0.8800 cents. So the province had put a 5 cents cap plus inflation and new services for transitional increases. Both subunits are under this threshold, even when including inflation and newly shared services like police. Looking at each overall services as read in the resolutions, as always, the protective services will have the highest investment at 33% of the operational budget. And these services include police services without the RCMP cost for Ward 2 as part of the transfer to the Bathurst Police Force. Fire services, dispatch services, and other protection services are also included in this section. The other notable investment is in transportation services. This budget includes the increased patching amount that was set in 2024. If you remember, at that time, we had increased the asphalt budget from 88,000 to 210,000. This is still in there with the required patching crews to make it happen. The Housing Accelerator Fund incentives are fully in environmental development services as well as the tourism initiatives, and this brings an increase of 2.3 million in expense for this section of the budget. Fiscal services in another area where changes are occurring, with a decrease in debt costs of 491,000 compared to 2024. We've been able to increase the transfer to capital purchases paid cash to 900,000 on top of using the 2023 surplus of 1.5 million. This makes a total cash capital investment of 2.4 million. In the budget, this shows as a transfer to the capital fund within the fiscal services. So as you will see on the capital side, added borrowing for capital investment, altogether we'll have a budget of 3.1 million for the capital fund. So how do we plan to pay for these expenses? Well, 250,000 will come from local taxes, which is the tourism accommodation levy. We then have 2.5 million in services provided to other governments, which includes the increase in cost-sharing revenues received from the Regional Service Commission for infrastructures, dispatch, fire services, as well as services delivered on behalf of the province are also included in this section. Sales of services, fines, and other fees has an increase related to additional sales at the Civic Center for concessions and bar. For other revenues from own sources, as mentioned earlier, we have increased projections in building permits, which translates in this section. We also have additional gained interest for the way that we use our working capital in our bank account, and additional payment in lieu of taxes from third-party agreements. Other government transfer has a major jump because of the federal grant for the Housing Accelerator Fund, and since we have projected incentives of $780,000, we have the same associated revenue in the budget. In other transfers, we have the $1.5 million surplus from 2023 that has to be shown here, and that will be fully reinvested as mentioned in capital. And there is also an increase in the charges for the administrative charges to the utility fund. Altogether, we have 7.1 million in non-tax revenue. To that, we add the unconditional grant, which has decreased in 2025 and is planned to decrease again for the next remainder 2 years of the 5-year decrease for the core grant, which gives us our property tax warrant required to balance the budget through the property taxes of $28,101,20 for the total balanced budget for revenues of $38,714,000. On the utility side, a reminder that this is a user-based budget and we cannot use property tax revenue to pay for expenses. Other than a few exceptions, we have to pay for this budget and all of those expenses through user fees. We almost have to view it as another company than the general operating fund that we just presented. So we just presented the highlight for the general operating fund. This is our second company, which is a utility operating fund. So the highlights, as we mentioned, we increased the rates by 2%, which is lower than past year inflation costs. In total expenses, there is added money allocated for water supply compared to wastewater disposal. And we can also highlight that the transfers to reimburse past year deficit, which has decreased, having finished the reimbursement of the 2019 deficit, because we've been paying 1 quarter every year since 2021, so that deficit is now erased. On an expense side, generally, you can see that water supply has the biggest increase from $2.6 million to $3 million, and the increase are in purification and treatment as well as power and pumping. Wastewater disposal will also have a slight increase from $2.4 million to $2.5 million. And as for the debt charges, $2.3 million will be to reimburse old debt. This is significant because it means 28% of the city's utility budget goes to repay old debt for old infrastructure instead of investing in new ones. So more than a quarter of our budget goes for debt. If we're able to decrease this amount a bit more, we can start reinvesting in more purchasing new infrastructure as cash and start doing the same thing we've been doing in the general side of the fund. Transfers to own fund and reserves still include transfers to the operational reserve for $100,000 and the capital reserve of $46,500, which we did the 4 tonight for this year, is still there for next year. And this leaves the repayment of prior deficit, which is really the decrease that is represented here. So it went from 421 to 257, but that is because we reduced the deficit by 164 from previous years. For the total revenue of $8.1 million. On a revenue side, so this increase in rates and approximation of new revenues that we can collect through the sales of services have an estimated total budget of $7.4 million. Other revenues from own sources, $748, where $500,000 of that is the cost to the fire department for the usage of the fire hydrant and the water. And the rest is for small other transfers like interest fees and the frontage fees. That's what makes the difference. And then in 2022 and 2023, we had slight surpluses. So 1/4 of that is that $26,000 for the total balanced budget of $8.1 million. Switching to capital with the general one first. So I won't go through all the lists because obviously Madam Parker read them all. But what I want to highlight is that through all of those total, we have $660,000 that will be invested in the city's buildings. $1,290,000 will be invested in the purchase of equipment and vehicle for the police department, the fire department, the parks department, and for the transportation department for road work. $140,000 is for projects and initiatives toward tourism, and this is on top of the $250,000 tourism initiatives that were mentioned and that is set aside. And finally, $1,005,000 will be invested in road infrastructure, combined with the $985,000 that we will see on the utility side for 134 Bridge Street Road reconstruction project. The total investment in roads will be $1,990,000, so close to $2 million. This is on top of the St. Anne Chaleur Street reconstruction project that was presented in the 2024 budget, but has been pushed to 2025 for $5.3 million. Combined with the operational budget for patchwork in the transportation budget, I would say that the department will have a lot on the go this summer. On the utility capital side, this one has a smaller budget, but still as important. So again, I won't list all of the budgets, but really on the regular budget side, the total of all the items except for the last one is $750,000. And the last one that we just mentioned, because it is, if it's surfacing on top, that's a general fund, but if it's a pipe underneath, that's a utility fund. So for the pipes underneath for Route 134, the total is $985,000. So total financing, the cash that was planned in this budget is $910,000. We added the $1.5 million from the surplus. We will borrow $665,000 in the general fund for the total capital budget of $3,095,000. On the utility side, unfortunately, we have zero cash. We have $750,000 borrowing, and on the interim financing, we have the $985,000 for the 134 Bridge Street. However, chances are that we won't borrow at all. This is simply the contingency, the resolution that we have tonight when we have to do those things, because now we have a methodology of waiting till we have the money in the bank account to accomplish the projects. We already do have pretty much that money in the bank account from transfers we've received from the, it's a new name, CCBF. I still call it gas tax, but it's CCBF fund now. So we already have the money that just came in. So technically we won't have to borrow, but it's there as a contingency should there be any overcost. For the total 4.8 million total budget combined. So as an overall, as you can see, the 2025 budget on the operating side, when we combine the general fund and the utility fund, we have a total of $46,863,000. On the capital side, we have $4,830,000 for the total budget altogether of $51,693,252. Numbers are hard. And that's my summary, Madam Mayor.
All right. We have questions. Councillor Knowles?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in regards to water and water supply, have we noticed any noticeable change this year since we've gone to the flat rate as opposed to the metering system?
Monsieur Laplante?
Through to Mr. Abernathy.
All right. Mr. Abernathy?
Thank you, Your Worship. We did see a pretty significant increase in demand over the year. It was a very dry summer, however, compared to previous years. We saw an increase of about 23% demand in the system over the summer.
So our water supply is stable. The watershed.
Oh yeah, we haven't had an issue with drought or anything since about 2007, I believe, was the last time that we had an actual issue with our reservoirs. As far as capacity and everything, there's no issue at all right now. It's really just the network that we need to work on to make sure that we can improve that process, improve the quality of the water being distributed through the network. That's all.
Okay, thanks for the info.
All right. Okay. Councillor Burnett?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Along the same lines, water prices could go down if we had more users and we had more water for sale or to sell. With the outlying areas that have been coming into Bathurst now with amalgamation, is there any requests for expanding our water so that we do have more customers?
Mr. Abernathy?
Thank you, Worship. We did put together a proposal a number of years ago to expand the water into North Tedigush and South Tedigush. It was quite costly. We were looking in the $20 to $25 million range to get that done. We certainly would require federal and provincial funding to do so. The business case on that side of things is not great without significant outside funding. So.
Okay, thank you.
Because your income revenue that you would get per month would not even suffice or come close to cover the actual cost of. Yeah.
No, like I said, we'd have to return about $850 or $846 per household. So I think the total number of new doors, I guess, or houses that we would add was around 475 if we did the Lone Pine and North Pedagogy area. Yep.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments? No? Thank you very much. It's been interesting this year. It's been a lot of meetings, but merci beaucoup, Madame Gauvin. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Let me get to my agenda. Oh, there you go. Okay. Ms. Parker, do we have any committee reports?
There are no committee reports.
Okay. Mayor report. This Saturday, December 7th, donc ce samedi, le 7 décembre, c'est le parade de Noël. So it's the Christmas parade. Hopefully all the young ones will be there. The city will have a float this year. So hopefully we will all be there. So it's on Saturday this year, not on a Friday. So Saturday, December 7th, donc samedi, le 7 décembre, à 18h, at 6 o'clock. I do want to take a moment to express my gratitude and saying thank you to all the city staff and council. We've had numerous meetings to try to balance this budget. And if we look at the overall of this evening's meeting, we're lowering property taxes by 2 cents. We are getting so much work done next year. So we are putting ourselves in a position and, you know, to be able to see the future. If we look at just the investment that we're getting in permits for housing, I think 2025 housing is going to be a big, big boom, which we're very excited because we need affordable housing and we need housing. And based on the amount of funding we get for permits, it's definitely a good sign for our region and for Bathurst. If you've had the opportunity to drive in front of the mill site, absolutely beautiful. Demolition Plus is doing a wonderful job. We want you to know that we have reached out to the new provincial government and they are open to speak with us. We are going to meet with them. So there's a very good conversation happening there. You know, what's going to happen, we don't know as of yet, but, you know, just want everybody to know that the provincial government is open to want to meet with us and we're going to show them the presentation and work with this new provincial government. So we're very, very happy to see the changes and it's moving forward. But when the silos were gone, it was something special. I had to stop and take a picture. It was just, anyway, it's a long time coming, so it was a great win for us. I want to wish everybody a great holiday. We'll probably be here another 2 more meetings. Hopefully next Monday we'll come dressed for the holidays, Council. Let's dress festivity. Yeah, I'm not wearing an ugly sweater. All right, so we'll go to the adjournment of the meeting. Ms. Parker.
That the regular public meeting be adjourned at 7:32 p.m.
All right, I'll need someone to move. Councillor Honda, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Bonne soirée à tous. Faites avec nous ce soir.